Hello there, everyone. Happy 2017. Happy full moon. Happy Saturday. I hope everyone's good. Everyone's happy and busy manifesting their desires. So, this is going to be, I think, the first video I've put up in at least 10 months, and I do apologize for completely falling off the radar. The part of it was, because of technical issues, my phone conked off and then my laptop. And part of us part of it was because I really got caught up in life stuff. Nothing bad, I promise. Just things that took up a lot of my time. And yeah, so I moved back home with my parents, and that accounts for the new background change. So so it's been good for the most part. It's been quite good. So I wanted to, put a video up for the new year. I wanted to start uh, creating content for my channel again. I will be participating in this year's YouTube challenge as well, but I think this time I'll probably make it a monthly thing instead of a weekly one because it's probably going to be more manageable that way for me. But yeah, so I'll start filming those videos a little bit later since it's going to be a monthly thing, and it's still pretty much the middle of January. So yeah, this video though, I would really like to talk about YouTubers, as in pagan YouTubers, who have really made a difference in my life or in my practice. Not because I think they need the publicity necessarily, because these are all pretty well-known people in their own right. They're quite, they're celebrities in our little corner of the internet. But I think it's important to acknowledge where credit is due. It's important to give thanks to people who've made difference in your life, and yeah, that's what I like to do. And yeah, let's get on with the list. So the first person that I'd like to talk about, that I'd like to thank, would be Ember Honeyraven, the big fat witch. She needs no introduction in our community. She's pretty much um, what's the word? I think resplendent. That's a good word to describe her. She is just so full of life and passion and zest that it really sort of radiates out of her. And she is actually the first person who got me into the pagan YouTube community. She's the first channel that I ever subscribed to, or the first content that I ever saw. I'm not exactly sure how I ended up on her channel. I think I was probably online researching crystals, and that probably led to her channel at some point. But I'm glad that it did, because Ember, for me, has she represents, to me at least, she is the ideal witch. She would be the ideal that I aspire to. She is somebody who's kind and benevolent, but at the same time, she's fierce and powerful. And that is something that I would really like to aspire to. Somebody, she's a pretty great role model. And apart from that, she's also inspired me a lot in terms of my practice or in terms of my craft, because some of her rituals or some of her witchy tips have really resonated with me, and she's given me really good ideas in terms of what to try out in rituals or what books to read. So yeah, she's had a major um, difference. She's made a major difference in my life and in my practice, and for that I'm thankful. The next on the list would be Arwen, from Tarot by Arwen. And I think Ember and Arwen sort of, for me, they're like a unit. I always think of them as sort of like a pair. And if Ember is about passion and power, Arwen is about joy. Arwen is about peace and how to find peace. I think she's one of the few people who I am subscribed to her channel, and I always I love to watch her weekly tarot readings. And what I like about Arwen is that shit happens, right? Sometimes you do deal with negative things. You have to deal with them, no matter how much you try to dispel it or how much you try to banish it. Sometimes just shit happens, and they've come up in her readings too. I mean, Arwen doesn't always talk about sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes she talks about conflict. Sometimes she talks about things going wrong because it's life. Things of that sort do happen. But at the same time, she has this gift. I would call it a gift. She has this gift about she really. I wouldn't say that she puts a positive spin on it because she doesn't really mince words. It's just that she really helps you to make the best out of a situation. And even if it's a shitty time, she really helps to show you the way as to how to turn it into a positive lesson, if nothing else. And that's important. She goes by the motto, seek your joy. And I think she herself is a pretty good example of that. So, yeah, yeah. She's also someone that I really look up to a lot. Next person would be Nico of Scarlet Moon. And I think Nico would be the second person that I ever subscribed to on YouTube after Ember. And well, Nico is if Ember and Arwen sort of how do I put this really? Ember and Arwen have had uh, an indirect influence, and I don't mean that to say that their difference was not profound. It was, but uh, you know that was more indirect or behind the scenes. Whereas with Nico, I think Scarlet Moon's channel, both his Scarlet Moon and the Scarlet Moon Magic channel, which is, I think, the channel that he uses to, vlog and stuff. So, yeah, I think Scarlet Moon has really had a direct influence in my practice, because his his thought processes or his style of witchcraft, or at least as much as he shows up on YouTube, because I'm sure there are lots of things that he does in private, just as all of us. We don't always share every aspect of our practices, but uh, in as much as he does share with us, I think we have a lot in common in terms of how we like to do things. So Nico has given me really great ideas in terms of practical witchcraft. So that's he's taught me a lot in that respect. So that's why I like him. The next person would be Lady Gravedancer, and I think she's like Nico in that sense because she's also given me a lot of practical advice. And when I say me, I mean me in a general sense. I'm just talking about her content. She's given me a lot of practical advice when it comes to herbalism and what herbs to use where. And I don't mean to say that she's limited to just herbs. Lady Gravedancer has a pretty varied content up on her channel, but my biggest takeaways from hers would be her herbal lore, and that's valuable for me because as I've grown organically in my path, I started out with things like uh, you know paper and ink, where you uh, write your spell or your desire onto a paper and you burn it. I started by rituals that looked like that because I didn't really have access to a lot of other witchy tools. And then I moved on to crystals. But herbs was something, I neglected or I really didn't get the chance to get into. So with Lady Grave Dancer, she's given me a lot of good ideas to, as to where to start with using herbs in my practice. And yeah, there's that. Uh, the next person, and I'm left with two other people. The next person would be Kelden, and he's someone who I've started following relatively recently. and that's because I'm you know my practice did not start out as being very traditional, and when I say traditional, I mean in terms of traditional witchcraft. So as to differentiate it from Wicca or Wicca-like influences. My practice when it started out was quite Wiccan based, but as I've sort of turned away from that and I've become more organic, I think it's starting to look more and more like traditional witchcraft. I think that's where my path is leading me. And in that respect, Kelden has been very helpful for me because he makes traditional witchcraft practices, things like spirit flight or flying ointment or studying and all of those things. He makes those practices quite approachable. He breaks them down into manageable steps, and he's quite organized like that. And I really respect his breadth of knowledge because Kelden is someone who does a lot of research on his content. If you followed his blog on Pantheon, he doesn't. I mean, of course, he has his opinions as to all of us, but his opinions are always well researched, and he really is pretty good with sourcing his stuff. He cites his stuff, provides proper citations, which really helps other people to do their own research if they're into it. So yeah, I think Kelden's biggest um, what's the right word? His biggest selling point. I hesitate to use the word selling point because it's not as though that these people are marketing their stuff. It's not that. But I guess the biggest thing that attracts me to his channel is that his approachability to something which is not necessarily very sunshine and rainbows, because as you know, traditional witchcraft is not something for the faint of heart. It can get quite primal. It can get quite intense. So I like that Kelden uh, sort of really, you know, keeps things a little bit more approachable. And yeah, so there's that. And the last person would be Shadowboy or George. I'm not sure if he's part of the YouTube pagan group up on Facebook, but anyway, Shadowboy is again, he's also traditional witch based out of the UK, and yeah, Shadowboy would represent to me the pinnacle or the ideal of a traditional witch, and in certain respects, his practice and the level where he's at is it scares me personally. Not in terms of I don't mean to say that I find him scary. I just find it's traditional witchcraft. Like I said, it's for me at least. It's quite primal and intense and visceral in certain ways. And you know, Shadowboy or George is a master. He talks about his practices as well. I'm sorry, I'm really floundering here. It's just that with Shadowboy, his eh, his expertise comes with long practice, years and years of practice, and to me, he represents the zenith of advancement as a traditional witch, and I sort of I do subscribe to his channel, and I do pay a lot of attention to his content, but at the same time, I I know that I'm not at a level where I'd be able to put it into direct practice. So for me, Shadowboy's content is like things to try out in the future. Sort of um, this is what you should be looking forward to. That's the position that Shadowboy has for me, and yeah. So I guess that's pretty much it. It's a big rambly video, and I don't even know at this point if I want to upload it, because this is probably going to be all over the place. But let's see. Let's see. So this is me signing off until next time. Bye.